it excludes birth certificates issued to Ghanaians as a mode of identification and or establishment of qualification to be registered in the register of voters. An order directed at first defendant to include under Regulation 1.3 of the Public Elections Registration Voters Amendment Regulation 2020 CI 126 birth certificates as evidence of identification. And this is where it gets interesting. We find no merit whatsoever in the second defendant's contention. It flies in the face of Article 42 of the Constitution and the decisions of this court in Abu Ramadan Supra and Abu Ramadan 2 Supra. A birth certificate is not a form of identification. It does not establish the identity of the bearer, nor does it link the holder with the information on the certificate. Quite obviously, it provides no evidence of citizenship. It therefore does not satisfy the requirements of the Article 42 of the Constitution. In fact, as a form of identification, it is worse than the NHIE card, which was held to be unconstitutional as evidence of identification of a person who applies for registration as a voter in Abu Ramadan number 1 Supra and Abu Ramadan number 2 Supra. In Abu Ramadan number 1, this court per Wood CJ at page 1674 held in respect to the NHI card as follows. The term evidence for identification as used in Regulation 1.3 is referable not in the strict and narrow sense as advocated by the defendants to a person's mere identity by name and face only, but the more important constitutional criteria that qualify a person for registration as provided under the primary source, that is Article 42 of the Constitution, and repeated under Regulation of CI 72. Chief Justice Wood continued on page 1675. Among the lot that does not provide undoubted information on the holder's nationality, it identifies the holder by the name and face all right, but makes no disclosure about the holder's identification, and thus fails to meet the citizenship restriction test. In Apalu versus Electoral Commission 2000-2001, Atuguba JSC underscored the importance of the identification of a voter in the following words. The ascertainment of the identity of a prospective voter is part of the conduct of public elections, and as the Constitution places that duty on the Electoral Commission, it can only do so by itself and its proper agents. To surrender the judgment of the presiding officer as to the identity of a voter to the candidate's polling agents is in effect to delegate that function to those agents, contrary to Articles 45C and 46 of the Constitution. It is little wonder that a birth certificate has never been included as one of the documents to be used as evidence of identification by a person who applies to be registered as a voter. We have quoted the relevant provision of CI 72 and CI 91 in this judgment. None of these specify a birth certificate as an identification document. Its introduction will be a retrograde step. We therefore hold that non-inclusion of birth certificate as a document for the identification of a person who applies for registration as a voter by CI 126 is not inconsistent with or in contravention of the Constitution or any other law. So this is what the Supreme Court said regarding this particular matter, and this is what has generated a significant amount of debate in legal circles and even in the public domain. For those of you on social media, Facebook and Twitter has been replete with all kinds of opinions, both legal and commonsensical, regarding this particular one. But today we'll try and do a mixture of both to see if indeed the Supreme Court did get this particular ruling right. Okay, so I'll be doing this conversation. In studio right now is Mr. Alex Segbefia, who is the Deputy Campaign Manager for the NDC election. He's been very busy, also serves on their COVID committee. Also a legal practitioner. Every time the NDC is in court, you see him wearing different clothes. So Mr. Segbefia, good morning.
Good morning to you, and good morning to your listeners and to your viewers.
Thank you very much for joining us. Clement Akapam, good morning, private legal practitioner.
Good morning, Godfrey, and good morning to your listeners and viewers.
And Franklin Kujo, President of Humani Africa, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay, thank you very much, Franklin, as well, for joining us. I'll get you in a bit. I will begin the conversation from Clement, and then I will come to Mr. Segbefia. So, Clement, as a lawyer and as an academic, what did you make, first of all, of the explanations of the judgment that came forth from the Supreme Court? And then we can hone in on the points that stood out for you.
So I think that the judgment of the Supreme Court, the judgment that they gave after they earlier on had stated that they will be coming out, if you look at it, they have addressed in some the main issues that were presented to them, particularly the first one being the issue on whether or not the EC has the authority to compile a new voters register. And then the main discussion point after the judgment came out has been paragraph 3 of the judgment on the inclusion of the old voter identification cards and the inclusion of birth certificates as an acceptable means of identification or as the source material for the purposes of registration. And if you look generally, the court was clear on the issue of the authority of the EC to compile a new voters register. The court was clear on the EC's mandate to perform its functions without unnecessary control or to be under the direction of anyone. So on those aspects, you can see that both lawyers and social commentators agree with the court's position and the pronouncement of the court. What has generated debate over the last week has been the court's interpretation and the court's decision on the inclusion of the birth certificate. And I think that to appreciate what the court said and the effect of what the court said, we must place the judgments of Professor Kote JSC in perspective, and then we'll be able to see whether or not the court respectfully erred or whether or not the court discharged its mandate as interpreting or resolving the issues that were presented before it. So that's how I see the judgment. In part, I see that the judgment, we agree, everyone agrees in part with the Supreme Court's ruling on compilation of voters register, the discretionary power of the EC. But when it comes to the issue of the identification documents, that's where the problem is. And the problem is in the judgment, and we need to look at it in the context of what the court said to be able to come to a conclusion whether or not the court has caused more problems for us going forward or they've clarified the issue.
So let's start the conversation then with you. What is the problem? If there is a problem in your estimation?
So I think that if you look clearly at what was presented as a relief for the court to pronounce on, particularly relief 3, it says a declaration that regulation 1 sub 3 of the Public Elections Voter Amendment Regulation CI 126 is inconsistent with and violates the provisions of Article 42 and 45E of the 1992 Constitution to the extent that it excludes birth certificate issued to Ghanaians, and this is the important point I'm going to make, issued to Ghanaians as a mode of identification and or establishment of qualification to be registered as a voter. So the matter that was before the court on this issue of inclusion of voter registration from the reliefs of the plaintiffs is clear. Whether or not the birth certificate provides a mode of identification and or establishment of qualification to be registered. My position is that being a mode of identification and being a mode for establishing qualification are two different things. If you look closely at Professor Kote's judgment, it did address the part on identification. He will start and he will say, a birth certificate is not a form of identification. It's not a form of identification, yes, because it is a record of birth. It is a document that shows a record of your birth, that shows the nationality of your parents. It is not identification. And I'm making this fine distinction for the purposes of my conclusion. So I agree that it is not a form of identification. It does not establish the identity of the bearer. Now, if I enter a bank today to cash a check and they ask me to provide my identity, I cannot provide my birth certificate as identity because that document will not link me, the bearer, and show that I am the one named on the document. There are other things that must go with it. The second issue that I agree with Kote, it does not link the holder with the information on the certificate. I agree. The part I disagree is where he goes on to say, quite obviously, it proves no evidence of citizenship. If you look at the release that the parties were seeking, there was no question on citizenship. And if you look at the analysis of Kote JSC himself, respectfully, he did not make any analysis on citizenship. So to arrive at a conclusion where you stated, one, that a birth certificate is not a form of identification. You stated that it does not establish the identity of the bearer. You stated that it does not link the holder to the information on the certificate, which is right. How you reach a conclusion that it does not provide evidence of citizenship, that is where I have a challenge. Because what does the birth certificate do? It provides evidence that someone has been given birth to in Ghana. It provides evidence of the parents of this person. It provides the date on which the person was given birth to. This document is prima facie evidence that I have inherited, and I use the word inherited, the citizenship of my parents. And that is our citizenship laws. We operate the jus sanguinis, the bloodline. So if the birth certificate is showing that my mother is Ghanaian, my father is Ghanaian, I was born in Ghana on this date, within this district, prima facie, that document is proof of the inheritance of the citizenship of my parents. So my argument is that if you look at the analysis of the Supreme Court itself, the intention was not to pronounce on citizenship. Now, if we take this decision to be a decision pronouncing on citizenship, then we will have a huge problem. And that is why the discussions have started. So if you read the decision in context, because I cannot be hearing the Supreme Court to say, and I refuse to hear the Supreme Court to say in this judgment that the birth certificate is not prima facie evidence of one's inheritance to citizenship. if the Supreme Court was to reach this conclusion, there would have been a lot more analysis on our citizenship laws and try and exclude the birth certificate from the scope of documents we can use as citizenship, proof of citizenship. Why do I say this? The Supreme Court is basing its decision also on Article 42 of the Constitution. Article 42 gives us the right to vote. The right to vote prescribes 3 things to be present. Be a citizen of Ghana of 18 years, of sound mind. Are we saying that if you hold a passport, it shows that you are a citizen of Ghana, you are 18 years, and you're of sound mind? These are all rebuttable presumptions. You can be holding a passport saying that you are 18 years. If someone doubts it and provides evidence to the contrary, that presumption is rebutted. So we cannot, if we restrict this ruling to citizenship and say that the Supreme Court is saying that the birth certificate is no longer evidence of citizenship, then we have a challenge, because that is not what the court said. And I've heard other lawyers saying that we should treat that part of the decision as arbiter. And if you treat that part as arbiter, and rightly so, we will not have this discussion. Because what was before the court was for the court to tell us whether the birth certificate is a document or a mode of identification, which the court has told us it's not. The other was whether or not it establishes qualification to be registered. That part the court did not pronounce on. My argument is that the birth certificate provides enough prima facie evidence to qualify one to be registered, but it is not a mode of identification.
All right. Thank you very much, Clement. I'll come back to you. Let me now come in-house and speak to Mr. Segbefia, and then we'll go to Lawyer Pong and then Honorable Abba. Mr. Segbefia.
Yes.
So we've heard from Clement on what his understanding of the birth certificate conundrum is. What did you make of that particular, overall, what did you make of the ruling, and then we can hone in on the birth certificate conversation?
Can I first of all say good morning to my colleagues as well,
yes,
those on Zoom, and my Deputy Minister who has just arrived in-house. Firstly, I would like to say that I concur with my colleague on the second part of his analysis. In terms of the issue of nationality and whether one is a citizen or not. I don't necessarily agree with him on the issue of identification in the whole span. I think that the birth certificate is one of a number of documents that might lead to identification. Maybe there could be an argument that on its own it is not, but it cannot be totally excluded in tandem with other documents to establish one's nationality, or for that matter, citizenship. And the reason I'm going down that road is that you can read the ability to identify somebody to the point of absurdity. You can easily say, for example, that every document is open to forgery. Every document can be deemed to have, or false information by even an individual can lead to mistakes. So at the end of the day, who is to say that you are really Godfred Akoto? Who is to say? The best people to do it are your parents. So in actual fact, your parents should appear every time you want to establish that you are Godfred. They must appear and say, this is our son Godfred. We know him. That's to the point of absurdity. To circumvent that, you look at various documentation which the person provides to then decide whether that person is who they say they are. what the law does, it gives certain presumptions and assumptions that prima facie certain documents are on the face of that document the truth of what they contain. Therefore, if you produce a birth certificate, it is, unless rebuttal, as he said, rebuttable presumption, unless rebutted, it is proof of the fact that my father is this person, my mother is this person, this is my name, and this is the day on which I was born. It can be open to the EC to decide that, look, we want more than that. But for the court to say that it is not a form of identification, I don't agree. It is a form of identification, but it may not be sufficient for a particular purpose. If not, it will fly in the face of all our passports. I hear the argument that has been put forward that you get guarantors for passports. So apart from the birth certificate you produce, people guarantee who you are on your passport. What are they guaranteeing? They are guaranteeing that they know you, possibly they know where you live, and they know you by this name. If you have a false identity at the time when they get to know you, and they've known you for the last 3-4 years, whether the person is a priest, a senior member of the clergy, etc., who are the guarantors normally, he is only identifying you as what he knows you to be. So if you actually have false information or have adopted a name or taken a false certificate, he's only signing that I know you as this person. He's not signing that you are definitely that person. He cannot. He doesn't have the ability to do that. And therefore, based on that, one of the documents you need to identify you, along with that guarantors verifying, is the birth certificate, which is what we have always used to get our passports. So you cannot diminish the importance of a birth certificate in identifying somebody. It is part of an identification process. So that is where I have a problem with the judgment, insofar as the court could have simply said on its own and on the basis of what this purpose, we do not believe that it is sufficient identification. But to say that it is not identification at all, for me, creates a problem. Because in effect, till you get to 18, and you apply for certain, which allows you to apply for certain documentation like the voter's ID card and others, nobody at birth can have any identification. Because if it's fingerprint evidence and from a certain age, then you can do that. Yeah. But photographs, when you don't look like you look when you are even 5 years old. So at what point are you going to take photographs? Are you going to say till somebody gets to 18, that person doesn't have an identity or documentation that can prove who he is? And that is why, for me, what could have easily been said was, we have different modes of identification for a person. Some stand on their own because certain processes have gone through. Some do not, and therefore may need certain things to assist. But to say that it is not a form of identification, I disagree with that part of the decision. There are other parts of the judgment, but to put it bluntly, the Supreme Court has two ways in which they interpret law. You can go down the literal translation, or you can go down the purposive translation. Mm-hmm. If you go down the purposive translation, you come to a certain decision. If you go down the literal translation, you come there. So, in effect, when you read aspects of the judgment, you cannot criticize it because, especially to do with whether or not the EC has the right to compile or not, they've taken a broader this thing. The only aspect of it I don't agree with is when the Supreme Court says that in the past that's happened, so it's part and parcel. The fact that people commit offenses right through, when it gets to a court, the court should follow the law. So if the decision was that they could not compile, in itself does not mean that they shouldn't state it because it has been done in the past. It doesn't work like that. So that aspect of it I wasn't too conversant with as a basis for coming to that decision, on the basis that, look, it has happened in the past, therefore because it has happened in the past, it is the right, it can now not be rectified or not. No. If it is wrong, it's wrong. You state it is wrong. But they don't have that headache because simply put, they say it does not mean that. So they are going down the purposive approach as opposed to the literal translation or the words of what it says. So I'm not going to go into any detail on that aspect or into other details, but I think this issue of identification, and he raises very interesting, my colleague, very interesting arguments, Lawyer Clement, of the issues with regard to who is the citizenship and nationality, because if you push it to the point of absurdity, we have to know where your grandfather was in terms of the treaties that were signed in 1844 and all. It can get to the point of really becoming difficult, even though the recent Citizenship Acts and whatnot give certain leeways as to where you are born. It's a minefield. It's not as simple or as straightforward as it is. So, but when you are born, you're given your birth certificate. That, in effect, is the basis upon. Look, I went through a vetting process when I was going to be a deputy minister and a minister. For a good 30 minutes, I was being grilled on a birth certificate. Why? Because some people thought that perhaps I had been born abroad. But if it was a question of citizenship, they all they had to ask was, where's your passport? But they went drilled down to my birth certificate to see whether I had been born in Ghana, who my parents were. Why did they have to go through that if they didn't? It wasn't being used as a form of identification of who I say I am and what I am. Because they were trying to establish that perhaps I'm not a Ghanaian citizen, falsely. And the only way they were trying to establish that was through the birth certificate. So the reality is that you cannot just sweep a birth certificate away as not a form of identification. It is a form of identification. And it's actually the very first form of identification you get. For whatever purposes we are doing, somebody might decide it's not enough. But it does not negate it as being a form of identification. Thank you.
Thank you very much on that. Lawyer Alpon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Lawyer Alpon, good morning. How are you?
Morning.
Thank you for joining us as well. I want to begin the conversation from the points Clement has raised on the potential of the ruling, especially on the citizenship aspect, if it is to be taken as we have now. Do you see the same concerns?
It will depend. Well, good morning to you all. First of all, let me put it on record that during the proceedings, when the Supreme Court was hearing the parties, especially the second plaintiff, whose case had something to do with birth certificate, the court made it absolutely clear that the case was not about citizenship. I was there and I heard the court say that this case is not about citizenship. There was no question for the Supreme Court to answer as to, for example, whether or not if one of your grandparents is a citizen of Ghana, you qualify to be a citizen of Ghana, or whether or not if one of your parents is a citizen of Ghana, you qualify to be a citizen of Ghana. There was no such issue before the Supreme Court. And so anything that has been said or purportedly said about citizenship was just, as sometimes the lawyers may call it, obiter, but it will even depend on whether this was obiter, which means that it was in Twi, they will say Mugu. I mean, it's not the very fundamental issue for which the case was founded. And so that has to be made very clear, in my view. Number two,
in layman's language,
it is pardon?
So it's for the layman who is listening to us, are you saying this is a situation that can be ignored? Somebody can just say, okay, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Considering the stature of the case and its implications and the reverence we give Supreme Court rulings.
So that's why I'm saying that it is not every case that is even reported that expresses a particular binding principle. Judges say a lot of things in a case, but what is binding is separate from all others that have been added. Maybe it's a gloss, maybe for further explanation or elucidation. So you ask yourself, that is why we have what we call issues. issues that you place before the court, and issues are akin to questions. What were the questions that the Supreme Court were asked to answer? That is exactly so. And there was no question about whether or not if a person holds a birth certificate, that person is a Ghanaian, prima facie. There was no such question.
But Layopon, I'm sorry for insisting a bit, but the language,
that is fine.
The language, if in the paragraph that it makes this appearance, a birth certificate is not a form of identification. It does not establish.
It is not.
No, let me finish reading.
Okay,
a birth certificate is not a form of identification. It does not establish the identity of the bearer, nor does it link the holder with the information on the certificate. Quite obviously, it provides no evidence of citizenship. The language there is not something that you can say in this current context, something we can ignore or not part of the significant issue.
I'm not saying we should ignore, but let me put it this way. The fact of the matter is that citizenship is a question of law, not of fact. If I ask you right now, you are a citizen of Ghana, are you not?
Well, maybe I can look at this and rethink it.
No, are you not?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Because the Supreme Court says quite obviously the birth certificate provides no evidence of citizenship.
So that's why I'm developing this point. You are a citizen of Ghana, are you not?
Yes, I am.
If you can just be,
I am.
Yes, what makes you a citizen of Ghana?
Okay, the law explains how I can become a citizen. So, by birth, which is by blood, I can do it.
That is because your parent or one of your parents is a citizen of Ghana, isn't it?
Yes.
And what made your parents or one of your parents a citizen of Ghana?
You can stretch it too.
That is why I'm saying that it is a question of law. Your parents may have been born during the days of the Gold Coast. There was no Ghana. So how did they also become Ghanaians, to give birth to your grandparents to become Ghanaians, to give birth to your father to become Ghanaian, to give birth to you to become Ghanaian? So the fact that you have indicated to the registrar of births that your parents are citizens of Ghana, which they don't verify or authenticate, will tell you that it is only a question of law. It is the law that says that, for example, Article 6, that all persons who were, before the coming into force of this Constitution on 7 January 1993, Ghanaians continue to be Ghanaians. It will take you to the 79 Constitution, how you became a Ghanaian, the 69 Constitution, how you became a Ghanaian, the 57 and the previous ones, and some agreements that were signed. So the point is, I want to just rely on the issues that were brought before the Supreme Court. There can be another case, and there have been previous cases, where who is a citizen has been answered. Let me take you to, for example, one of Professor Sari's cases, what I call the dual citizenship case, because he has many. In that case, the Supreme Court, speaking through Datiba JS, said clearly that a person does not need a document to prove citizenship or for the performance of any duties as a citizen. Let me read a portion to you. To the extent that the administrative requirement, that is issuance of card to dual citizens, but I will just come down, is an administrative requirement referred to above, is mandatory and conditions the exercise of the rights of dual citizen on it, I will regard it as unconstitutional. If the card is intended to be optional and to ease the exercise by dual nationals of their rights, then it would be constitutional. In other words, dual nationals are citizens by operation of the Constitution and do not need any mandatory documents before exercising their rights of citizenship. In the same way, and I want to highlight this, in the same way as sole citizens like myself do not need any mandatory documents before exercising their rights as citizens. And it is on the basis of this that even if I have a passport, I can decide to go to the registration center of the Electoral Commission with no passport, with no Ghana card, and get you people to guarantee that I'm a Ghanaian. I don't need a document. I don't need a passport. I don't need a Ghana card per se to be able to register as a citizen consistent with Article 42. And that is exactly what is being said. But if you decide to prove your citizenship or nationality with a document, then that document must be authenticated. Section 34 of Act 310, that is the Births and Deaths Act, Clement said it, says whatever is contained in it is prima facie evidence in court, it adds. So the point is, as he said, and my good friend Segwefia also said it, these are rebuttable. So when you want to go by the decision of the Supreme Court, for me, it is a perfect rendition of the act, of the law.
Okay.
And it is the same reason why the CI 126, after stating that you have to prove, and there you are not only proving that you are Ghanaian, but also prove that you are 18 years of age. As for the soundness of mind, is another level. You may go with a Ghana card, you may go with a Ghana card or a passport. But if you do not have these, or you do not want to go there with any of these, then some people who have already been issued with the card may guarantee for you. It is in recognition of this same tried, tested, and proven law that you do not need a card per se, because citizenship is a question of law. The law says that if one of your parents is a citizen of Ghana, and as Clement put it correctly, our own is not like other countries where, with all due respect, if you are not even a citizen there, your wife is in Ghana, she gets pregnant with you, comes there to visit you, gives birth, and the child becomes a citizen. Look, when you look at across board, globally, one of the countries whose laws on citizenship is so complex and stringent, Ghana is one. It is not so easy, and because of the issue of consanguinity by blood, and that is why I do not believe that by merely going to the UK, for example, to denounce my citizenship as a Ghanaian and get a UK passport, automatically then I have ceased to be a citizen of Ghana. We can go into that later.
Okay,
so
sure.
when you come to the decision,
yes,
the court made it very clear that, and as Clement said, if you are holding my birth certificate right now, how can anybody prove that you are not your own and that your parents are not this and that? How can anybody prove? Number two, when you go to the registration center and you say that you are your own, and two people guarantee, if you are lucky, your parents, that is good enough, because it is not by any card or document that makes me a citizen of Ghana. And so I think we should, with all due respect, not place too much emphasis on those 4 or 5 words there in the sentence. Because for me, you can just say in ordinary terms that it was said in person. It is not the ratio in the case. It is not a binding, that part per se is not just binding. But then it explains the law that you do not need a birth certificate to establish your citizenship. And that is what the emphasis should be placed on.
Okay.
Because if you want to go into it, as I said, it will get to a time that we may not even get one person who is a citizen of Ghana. But the law has made it so simple for us that even after coming into force of the 1992 Constitution on 7th January 1993, any person, one of whose parents is a citizen of Ghana, born inside Ghana or outside Ghana, is a citizen of Ghana. So why do you have to complicate it by insisting on where is your birth certificate to prove to me that you are a citizen of Ghana? You don't need any birth certificate, but you need a document to identify you, so that if you are holding a birth certificate and that document, for example, it can be said that this is your point, because the face must match the together with what is on it, must match what is on even the birth certificate. Don't forget, some of us got our birth certificates with our baptismal card, those of us who were baptized quite early. So will you say that then the baptismal card, which is the source document for my birth cert and for my passport, should also be used? Of course, it was once used, but it was an illegality because Parliament didn't approve of that, or that the CI did not approve of that. So for me, this judgment is sacrosanct as far as even the birth certificate issue is concerned. Let us make it clear that the Supreme Court said the case was not about citizenship. It was just about whether or not there is any provision specifically mentioned in CI 126 which is inconsistent with and in contravention of Article 42 and I think 50A. And in that case, the question is, does the Constitution provide, if the Constitution had provided that birth certificate is one of the legal instruments by which a person can prove his citizenship, and the CI had not included it, that is what would have made the CI inconsistent with and in contravention of the Constitution, and therefore unconstitutional. But there's no such prescription in the constitutional provisions that were brought before the Supreme Court that the CI was inconsistent with. So in a nutshell, let us situate what was said within the closed parameters of the case that was brought before the Supreme Court and say that CI 126 or the specific provisions therein are not inconsistent with or in contravention of Article 42 of the Constitution 1992, nor the other one, that is the 50, or the 45E, I beg your pardon, the 45E. There is no such provision in CI 126 that contradicts it. And that question has been perfectly answered by the Supreme Court.
All right. Thank you very much, Lawyer Yao Opong. Clement, if you have anything to say, let me know. I will bring you back, and then I'll go to Honorable Laban and then Franklin. Messages also coming through on this, quite a lot, I must say. Good morning, City, and good morning to your panel. My name is Christian Kweku Mabo. I just want to ask if the Supreme Court's judgment is only about using the passport and the Ghana card. I only want to say that the Supreme Court failed to remember that the same rejected birth certificate is the one that gave birth to the Ghana card they are now using as a means to register. It is quite unfortunate. It is as if your parents who gave birth to you have now been rejected by them. Well, I hope the explanations going around will have explained this to you, Christian from Tema Community 2. Godfrey, good morning. If our lawyers are saying the birth certificate is not a mode of identification, then I think some content of it needs to be edited by removing the word nationality from the certificate. Well, Lawyer, what do you think about that? This is
say that again.
Well, the message says if we think that the birth certificate is not a mode of identification, then we should remove the word nationality from the certificate. You know, there's a portion where you have to write nationality.
Yes.
What says we should remove it.
The point is that you don't need that birth certificate to prove that you are a citizen of Ghana.
All right, no problem.
You don't,
no problem.
Questions will be asked. You say your parents' nationality is also there. What then made your parents also nationals of Ghana?
Yeah, that point is well made. Let me quickly go.
That's what I'm saying. It's a question of law.
Certainly. Clement, quickly, you wanted to say something, then I go to messages. Then we'll take a break, and then we'll hear from Lawyer Ban and Franklin.
Yeah, so I think that from the point Mr. Segbefia made and what my learned senior
Lawyer Pong
just said, it is clear that the Supreme Court did not intend to address the issue of citizenship. I will not take this one-line statement, and I refuse to take this one-line statement in the judgment that says quite obviously the birth certificate is not evidence of citizenship to mean that our Supreme Court has pronounced on citizenship in relation to the birth certificate. I would expect a more thorough, expanded argument from the Supreme Court if the Supreme Court's intention was to pronounce on the validity of the birth certificate as evidencing citizenship. And that's the first point I made. And I agree to the extent that the birth certificate cannot be wholly sufficient in addition to other documents, yes. But if you look at the matter, and I say let's go back to the issue, and Yaopon pointed to that before the court, and I think that the plaintiffs stated their issues quite clearly and excellently. It says, birth certificate issued to Ghanaians as a mode of identification. The court says, no, it is not a mode of identification. The second part of their issue that says, or establishment of qualification to be registered, the court did not address that point. And I say that in the birth certificate, we have enough evidence to qualify one to be registered. Even if you want to go with the guarantee system, the person guaranteeing for you, you want to extend it to that person. The information in that person's birth certificate will prove and give standing to that person to guarantee for you. So, in relation to the question of a birth certificate establishing qualification for registration, I hold the view that if you read the content of a birth certificate together with Article 42, it will provide you with sufficient qualification to be registered. But I'm saying that the court did not answer that part of the question. And we should not be held to say that the Supreme Court has settled the matter on birth certificates in relation to it being evidence of citizenship.
All right, Clement, hold on for me there. I need to take a break. The big issue is getting interesting. I have lots of messages. Mr. Segbefia has been writing. Loyaban is making copious notes as well. We'll be back.
Imagine if you can get all the understanding on some of the difficult subjects you struggle with in school. As a student, do you feel dissatisfied with how hard it is to figure out the subjects you're learning? Or as a parent or guardian, do you worry that your child is struggling to understand some of the subjects in school? Well, now you don't need to sign up for extra lessons or tutors. Simply tune in to Class Act, Mondays to Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. on City TV. Class Act is a show that seeks to enable senior high school students gain a much better understanding of what they learn in school. All you need is a TV, a chair, your notebook, and your pen. Get clarity on subjects such as maths, English, IT, and science. Class Act airs every Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on City TV on DSTV channel 363 and GoTV channel 182. Don't forget your pens, pencils, and your notebooks, and tune in to Class Act only on City TV.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
It's inspiration. It's the word. The teachings.
When is your time? When is your season? When is your turn? No amount of lies, no amount of liars, political liars, financial liars, family liars, hatred or spiritual liars, no amount of it can stop you.
Tune in to Voice of Inspiration with Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. on City TV.
Welcome to the big issue, discussing the matter of the Supreme Court's ruling that came out this week in the matter that the NDC sent before it on whether the birth certificate and the old voters registration card could be used as a form of identification in getting the new voters ID. That ruling came out a while back, but the explanation, the full ruling came out this week, and it has generated quite some significant debate amongst members of the legal profession. So I've brought quite a few on the table today to have that conversation. Now, before we went on the break, Lawyer Clement Akapam was making a point. And for those of you who want to send in your messages, 0549 986 996, 0549 986 996, and 0550 585832. You can also reach us via Twitter at City973 or at Gofrada Kutoboafu eSportsman. The hashtag is the big issue. And I'm doing this morning with Mr. Alex Segrefia. He's the Deputy Campaign Manager for the NDC election team. So he's in campaign mode constantly from now till the end of the year. But he's also a lawyer of very, very, very high standing. So we've brought him on the table today. Honorable Alex Aban is here, Deputy Minister of Communications himself, a lawyer, former member of the legal committee, I think.
I was the vice chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs.
Yes, so he's in his own space. Lawyer Clement Akapam, as well as with us via Zoom. He's a lecturer at GIMPA, a law lecturer at GIMPA, as is Franklin Kujo, president of Imani Africa. And Franklin, forgive me, I will come to you in a bit. So, Clement, you're making a point. Please wrap up.
So, before the break, Alfred, I was saying that if you look at the content of a birth certificate and you compare the content of a birth certificate to the requirements or what will make one eligible to vote in Ghana, we can get information from the birth certificate. What does Article 42 say? It says you have to be a citizen. How do you prove that you're a citizen? There are a number of documents, and the birth certificate is one of those documents that prima facie can prove that you're a citizen. It says you must be 18 years. The only accurate record we have of age of a person will be the record on your birth certificate. So prima facie, that document gives us that information as well. Then it says, you must be of sound mind. That they are not requiring us to prove. Otherwise, we should have all brought certificates from our doctors to show that we are of sound mind. So if we are taking sound mind, prima facie, so everybody who is holding, who works at a registration center is taking prima facie as being sound mind. Prima facie of being 18 years. When it comes to citizenship, you are either being guaranteed or you should have a document where we can see whether or not you qualify to be a citizen. And I say that that is the part of the Relief 3 that was not clearly pronounced on by the Supreme Court, whether or not the birth certificate establishes qualification to be registered. And that aspect for me is not the same as saying that the birth certificate is not evidence of citizenship. And that I have said clearly that I don't agree with the Supreme Court. I don't think that that is what the Supreme Court set out to say, because from the reasoning and arguments Professor Kote JSC makes before getting to that sentence, you cannot say that he was making an argument on citizenship. Clearly, he limits himself and talks about identification. Then he gets to the point where he says, quite obviously, the birth certificate is not evidence of citizenship. Another point where I see that this issue of citizenship might raise problems is also in that same paragraph where it goes on to say, in fact, as a form of identification. So we're still talking about the birth certificate. As a form of identification, it is worse than the NHIA card. There, I also have a little disagreement with the court. The reason why in Abu Ramadan cases, we said we don't want the NHIS card was because the basis for acquiring the NHIS card was not citizenship, but residency. And if you look at the NHIS Act, it's clear there. It says the person is a resident, and it says you must have been in Ghana for 6 months. But then it means that anyone who has been on our soil for 6 months would have acquired an NHIS card. So a birth certificate is not acquired like that. So we cannot say that we can compare a birth certificate to an NHIE card and say that the birth certificate is worse than the NHIE card.
But Clement, in that regard, hold on. In that regard, wouldn't you, the common person would say, well, I can go to Tema Station and get a birth certificate in 3 minutes if I want one.
Okay, I agree with you that there are flaws with the administration of births and deaths. People are holding birth certificates, and that is why it is not a document of conclusive proof of your citizenship. So if you know someone who is holding a birth certificate who is not Ghanaian, who is parading himself as Ghanaian, the duty is now on you to question that birth certificate and show why you are saying that that birth certificate was procured fraudulently. Yes, we shouldn't allow the flaws in the administration and registration of births and deaths to affect how we treat this vital primary source that has the ability to show when you were born, who your parents were, and whether or not your parents had any. So if my parents were Burkinabés, on my birth certificate would have been stated nationality Burkinabe. So that birth certificate will not qualify me to get a Ghanaian passport, because it will be stated on my birth certificate that my blood is not from the line of Ghanaian parents. So yes, I agree with you. You can walk to the station, within 5 minutes you have a birth certificate in hand. So we should look at how we deal with this. Otherwise, if we are saying that the birth certificate is not evidence of citizenship, then we should stop putting funds at the birth and death registry. Let's convert it. Let's leave the statistical services to be recording the number of people who we give birth to and the number of people who die. But that document is very important. And as a standalone, it does not provide sufficient evidence of identity. Coupled with other documents, it would be. However, does it show and give information that will qualify me to register? I say yes. And I say that I will agree with the outcome in conclusion. My final words that we should treat this as a passing statement. If we rely on this statement, it will have dire repercussions. Because I've heard already that the passport office is saying that they are no longer going to accept birth certificates as a primary source document for applying for passport. So what are they going to accept? So if my mother wants to apply for birth certificate, we should go to Awudome and bring the. How are we going to do that? So what are they going to accept as primary document? So we should not rely on this to take certain decisions that will have repercussions for our country going forward. Right. Our citizenship laws is tight. Some say it's in a mess. I will choose to call it is a maze that you have to navigate it carefully. But we shouldn't say that this decision of the Supreme Court is the one that has no conclusion to issues of citizenship in our country.
All right.
That's my conclusion.
Thank you very much, Clement Kujak-Kapam. I know you have to go somewhere, so you promised us an hour. Thank you very much for your thoughts this morning. Lawyer Ban, you've heard Clement and the opinions he holds on the ruling. What are your own opinions on the matter?
Thank you very much. Good morning to our cherished viewers. Good morning to my namesake, Alex. May I seek your indulgence to just use 1 minute to do something?
Always.
With all due respect. There's this news making the rounds of some NHIS boss who was trying to have a quick with a nurse, right? But the picture of the nurse is a friend that I know. She is not the person, the said Doreen, and she's so traumatized.
The one in the solar incident, okay.
Meanwhile, this nurse that I know, whose picture is all over, never worked there. She was in 37.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know who is using her picture for these things. I'm just saying it in public for the various media houses that have done that to quickly take that
picture down.
Otherwise, I think I'll sue for her because she's traumatized. It's not good at all. Okay. Anyway, so that's what I sought to do.
Okay, but before you come in, I think I heard Lawyer Pong. I don't know if he was to say something.
I'm saying that it is even wrong, even if she is the one. It is wrong to post pictures of a person who has made allegations of being victimized,
certainly,
especially sexual victimization or things like that.
So
we should just stop. We should just stop doing these things to ourselves.
It's all over.
And I must say that in the ethics of what we do actually should not happen, where the victim of sexual assault or somebody who has made a complaint is named, one, and two, pictorially also put out. It is not done anywhere. So I agree with you.
And a lot of Ghanaians don't read. Yeah. So they just look at the headlines. They will look at the pictures and say, oh, these are the people. And then that's it.
Yeah.
It's not good. Gloria, if you're listening to me, sorry. Anyway, now let us go to constitutional law.
Yes.
Interesting. Look, this case raises a lot of concerns for all of us as practitioners. Okay? And here, let me enter my caveat.
Okay.
I'm speaking purely as a lawyer.
Okay.
Okay? Lawyer Paul also entered the caveat which had previously been entered by the Supreme Court itself, that they were not dealing with issues of citizenship. I know they were not going to interpret who is a citizen, right? But it is so tangentially linked that probably the Supreme Court should have used the opportunity to actually deal with that issue decisively. Because Article 42, which is the basis of all this, says that every citizen of Ghana. So if you are going to register, obviously your citizenship comes to play. Right? Mm-hmm. And so just that. And then you look at it against this definitive absolute statement. Where is it?
That would be
quite obviously, I'm quoting. It provides no evidence of citizenship.
Yeah. Page 27.
As a lawyer, it gives me a lot of worry. I'm being honest with you. Right? So it says, Article 42 says, every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for purposes of public elections and referenda. So what we are looking for is obviously evidence of the fact that you are a citizen. Evidence of the fact that you are 18 years of age. And then, of course, of sound mind, let's put it aside. What will be the primary document where these information are likely to be found? Let's ask ourselves that. I will look at the ideal situation and probably situate it within the context of how we have bastardized the birth and death certificate, birth and death registry, such that information coming from there do not seem to carry that same level of accuracy. So we don't put our faith in it. Because I can just pass here and in 3 minutes I'll have some birth certificate which is completely different from what I originally have. Mm-hmm. Because as a lawyer, I've had the occasion of doing some affidavit to correct. In fact, if you come to me that I was actually born this way, this day, but because of football or because of other reason, I want you to, me, I will never do it. But if you come and you have gone to, with all due respect, misbehave yourself somewhere, and I have to try and do corrective affidavit, that's what I will do. Right? So, let us, now, having said that, let me look at these two things. As far as our citizenship is concerned, world over, we have what we call the jus tertii, or jus solus, and then jus sanguinis. The jus tertii or jus solus is the fact that you are born on that land. It is the land that defines your citizenship. So you may be in Ghana, 2 Ghanaian citizens. Your wife takes seed, she decides to go to the United States. As soon as that child is born there, the child is an American. That is jus solus or jus tertii. The second one is jus sanguinis. It has to do with the blood that is flowing through you, such that if the Americans did not have that jus solus principle, and for instance, principle, and for instance, good, UK, they went away from that during the Margaret Thatcher's days. So let's use UK. For instance, your wife gets pregnant, she decides to go to give birth in the UK. That fact does not necessarily confer citizenship on the child who has been born on that land. What we have in Ghana is the jus sanguinis, to the extent that if you are not Ghanaians, 2 of you are not Ghanaians, and you are residing in Ghana, and you give birth in Ghana by reason of, just by reason of that fact of having been born in Ghana, does not confer on you citizenship of Ghana. Right? If we understand this one, it is only against this that you can make some sense of this. Okay? It's only against this analysis that you can make sense and agree with the Supreme Court that to that extent it does not
quite obviously provides no evidence of citizenship.
Exactly, because you will also be given birth certificate. It is only against that. But the question is, what will be the content of the birth certificate? The content in this regard, if the parents who are foreigners are truthful and they say, oh, we are Burkinabes, and it shows on there, then that child, even though he has turned 18 and is of sound mind, we would not be permitted, because he would not qualify to vote in Ghana. Right? So we should not just look at that statement, okay, and try to just look at the statement without looking at maybe some of these things to make some sense out of it. Probably if the Supreme Court had gone ahead to explain certain things, this statement would have made a lot of sense and would have put to rest all the hullabaloo. So we now know the mode of citizenship. Good. That's why I was saying that even though they were not dealing with citizenship per se, they were not deciding the question of citizenship, for as long as it's the citizens who are going to vote, it is so tangentially linked. So now we know that this may be one of the reasons. And now let us look at the various premises that led the court to make that statement. It says that a birth certificate is not a form of identification. Usually when we're talking about identification, it's not only the things that have been written about you or that have been purportedly written about you, but sometimes it has to do with the things written about you and your physique put together. And that's why in any form of identification, they will ask for a photograph of you together with the writings about you. So for instance, you pick any of the cards that we usually have, like what we properly call identity cards. You will see that your face, your facial image will be there, and then those narrations which would link the information there to you. Birth certificate doesn't have that. So it says that it is not a form of identification. It does not establish the identity of the bearer, right? I mean, it only goes to explain the first sentence. Nor does it link the holder with the information on the certificate. And here,
it's quite key.
It's key, but let me tell you, there are people who have used other people's identity, who have carried other people's birth certificates. Okay, all these are not part of the reasoning, but these are facts that the Supreme Court could have taken judicial notice of. There are people who have taken people's birth certificates to go look for something, and then because of that they change their names. There is that information. Obviously, the bearer is, to this extent, I mean, to the extent of what I've said, the bearer is a foster, right? But it can pass through. And then he says that
quite obviously.
So it therefore does not satisfy the requirements of Article 42. So to that extent. In fact, as a form, I don't want to even go there, right?
We've read that already.
So, if we look at it from that point of view, we may not necessarily discard it the way it has been suggested. But if the statement has been that, okay, they were not dealing with citizenship at all, so just take it as arbiter. But that's the Supreme Court speaking. And so it is not easy just to say that statement written by the Supreme Court upon its reflection and analysis of all the evidence before them, we should just discard it as arbiter. Because sometimes, in making your argument in another case, you may even pick an arbiter dictum to support your argument. Right? Good. So, let us take it that way. Now, in talking about the birth certificate and its content, you realize that these are, if I say, self-serving information that we put there.
Yeah.
It's not based on information extracted as a result of cross-examination. You just have the form and then you fill it. Most often, we tell the truth on that document, most often. because unless there are compelling reasons for anything, when somebody is born, the parents are likely to give all the accurate information. The reason why this time around we may not necessarily say that what is in there is accurate is one of the reasons that I gave. That somebody wants to now get a new birth certificate for some other reason. Let us go to what all my colleagues have talked about. I think Section 37 of the Evidence Act states clearly that there is a presumption of regularity of things that have been done and are coming from official sources, right? I don't want to do the Latin rendition of it, so let's go on. So, if that is the case, and thankfully, we know it is rebuttable. If that is the case, then we could have had birth certificates as just one strand of evidence together with others.
And I agree.
Okay, together with others, because it will be these pieces of evidence which put together will irresistibly point to the fact that you are a Ghanaian or not. Standing on its own, it cannot suffice because of the things that we have talked about. Standing on its own, it cannot suffice. But to my humble mind, it cannot be totally discounted. It cannot be totally discounted. But probably because of the way we have debased that place, the Electoral Commission, we have given justification why
it does not trust documentation from
it should
that.
not be accepted. But the painful reality then is that we ourselves have not made systems work and work properly as a country. Because I can assure you that if you went to the United States and you got birth certificate from there, going to change even an I in that birth certificate, you will go through hell to be able to do that. So that there's that degree of trust in the accuracy of the information contained therein. What have we done to ours? Now I've moved from law to like administrative issues. Because in the final analysis, that's how we must create our country, such that if something is coming from official source, as soon as I get it, I should not have any cause to doubt. I told you the story the last time that I came. Yeah. That a story is told of somebody whose age had been given, and if you did the calculation, at the time he was in secondary school, he must have been just a year old. Right?
Yeah.
So we have caused it. Let me say that it's because of because standing on its own, it may not suffice. That is why, probably, it has been given this sharp rebuff. So if we are talking about jus sanguinis as the basis for our citizenship, then birth certificate which has been given to anybody born in Ghana, because if your parents are not Ghanaians and you are born in Ghana, it doesn't mean that you are not entitled to get a birth certificate from Ghana at all. You can still have birth certificate from Ghana, but the information therein should indicate clearly that your parents are not Ghanaians. So this is what will lead us to the statement that he commented on, that I think the issue of the EC, whether it can compile or not, I don't think it creates any problem anymore. Because, one, it was at first withdrawn by the first plaintiff, but the second plaintiff resurrected it somehow, and I think that one was dealt with. Yeah. To be honest with you, the argument that was put together, or that was put forward by the NDC, I did not find it impressive at all. That there's only one time, and that all that they had was to review. That was not impressive.
Oh, you didn't buy. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Wrap up for me quickly.
Let me wrap up just by saying that the statement here, if I should go with my brothers, should not be seen as making a definitive position on citizenship. Probably we have to deal with it. Maybe.
But the consensus expressed by Clement in the sense that yesterday, and I did hear that interview from the Foreign Ministry, that they might have to consider a birth certificate's place in applying for a passport.
No, but
that
I think
will be derived from this.
I think that they should.
That we are supposed to consider as
no, but I think they should be educated. But
the Foreign Affairs Ministry.
Yes, I think they should be educated that this is just auditor, right? Because if it is taken that way, then anybody who is going to get a passport should go with either a Ghana card or go with guarantors. Guarantors, the best being their parents. What if your parents have died? Of course, you have other people around you.
Okay. The point is made.
Let me leave it here.
Okay.
Let me leave it here.
I will give the final words on this to Mr. Segbefia
what about
I'll go to Franklin.
Yeah, so let Franklin speak.
Okay.
And then I'll come back to you.
All right, so let me go to Franklin then. Franklin.
Yeah. Maybe you don't want me on your show again.
No, please. No, you know that cannot happen. But today,
it's because we're not here, Franklin.
We had to defer to the lawyers for a while before we can get to the.
Franklin is a pocket lawyer. He's a pocket lawyer.
He's amicus.
Anyway, good morning. Good to see my good friends once again. Good morning to everyone listening and watching as well. Well, first of all, I was gratified on page 6 of the ruling.
Okay.
When the judges themselves moved away, I think there was 1 or 2 judges who were making unnecessary commentary about our neutrality. They didn't codify that. They just said that our amicus was brought late and that possibly they thought in their own view it didn't contain any new information. I'm gratified to know that. But see, I worry a bit. I worry a bit about the commentary that the good prof made, the judge. As I understand, if we were being told that, well, the matters before them should be based on fact, and they were supposed to be ruling based on the fact or what has been brought before them, much as I understand that you need to make other commentary, I think the weight of the commentary actually matters, and I think that comment about the worthlessness of the birth certificate was quite unfortunate. And you see, the only reason why I worry is that other countries in Africa have had challenges with identity and citizenship, and it has caused them greatly. Now, as we are hearing that the passport office is already suggesting that, well, they may not be willing to accept some of this document. You see, if the state had invested enormously in the sanctity of these institutions that we have, the birth and death registry, and indeed, if you have been minded to invest critically, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I don't know whether. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, Franklin. Go on.
Okay. Well, if the state were minded to invest in proper identity systems, that obviously would have been very useful. I think that because as a state we've not been, we've not served ourselves really well. We should not be seen to be, suggesting, amending, should I call it, document that somehow prove citizenship as we go along without making necessary adjustments. It's I don't know how to say it, but I feel as if the good professor went overboard and probably was just motivated by something he probably wanted to have said long time ago, and now that the opportunity came, he said it. What worries me greatly is also I tend to look at the optics of the current situation. You see, I may be stretching the argument, but let not a section of Ghanaians feel that anytime a certain particular party is in power, there's strenuous efforts to delegitimize them as citizens. And I think there's a history to this event. And those are the political aspects that I think we should be very wary of. I keep saying that you can pass a law, and laws do not all laws necessarily make sense. I give the analogy of the candlestick makers in France who at the point in time thought the sun was melting their candles and petitioned Parliament to pass a law against the sun. Eventually, the law was passed. Is that a good law? Would you really be passing a law against the sun? So I worry that comments of this nature, and then you leave people to start making permutations of how you got appointed, what your ideological leanings are. Quite frankly, it doesn't help the cause. But I suspect in doing judicial reviews, that's what we are trying to do now. And mind you, it's not only lawyers who have to be doing these reviews as well. Law must have an impact on society. If the law is seen to be favoring a section of people and then excluding others, it is definitely not a just law. That becomes plunderous. So I think that next time the Supreme Court judges have the opportunity to deal with the matters before them, and not strain to arena that evokes a lot of emotions and and pain. I think I've said enough.
All right, then.
This matter.
Thank you very much, Franklin. So I'll wrap up this conversation with Mr. Segbefia and Lawyer Pong, and then we will move to I will just add the Airbus matter to this because it's also almost legal, and then after that we can talk about COVID and schools. So, Mr. Segbefia, let's hear you wrap up on this matter.
I'll be very quick. First and foremost, commenting on the comments of Lawyer Opong, I don't think that the baptismal certificate is a good example, as he was stating, because it's a religious document and not everybody is a Christian. So I don't think there's an argument that it should be used as a form of identification in any shape or form, which is totally different from the issue of the birth certificate. I concur with Honorable Lawyer Aban, or my namesake, when he says that, what is happening now in Ghana is that we are being made to pay for the price of flawed institutions. The mass of the general public is paying for flawed institutions. Why should the EC ask for a new register based on an NIA card which was not acceptable, when they themselves were the ones who put it in the first place? And then all of us now have to go and register because of the flaw in National Identification Authority. But they were the ones who actually allowed us. And I'm not saying that this EC, I'm talking of as an institution. As an institution. You allow us to use a card, and now you want us to all go and register. It went to the court. The court says, look, the places where there were flaws, take those out, but leave everybody else. You did it, and you said it wasn't done properly. They should have gone back and done it properly again, instead of putting us through this process of registration. Because it's the institutions that are not acting properly. That is creating a problem for all of us. So you have a birth and death certificate. Prima facie, it is a form of identification. And the categorical statement that it is not a form of identification, for me, causes me concern. Because I totally agree with my colleagues when they say that on its own, perhaps, it cannot be used. But to say that it is not a form of identification, for me, it's flawed. We don't possibly understand, and you can get into the realms of absurdity. Do you ever only become a citizen when you are 18? In any event, flawed documents are not something that we don't know about. Recently, the government has just rejected the deportation of people from the United States into Ghana passports on the basis that their passports were obtained wrongly or they are not true Ghanaians. They have obtained. So flawed documentation, even in Britain and the States, people get documentation falsely. But you don't punish the whole system and the whole society because you have a handful of people who may or may not have passed through the right process to get the item. So I don't of itself, and I like the distinction Lawyer Pong made between residency and nationality in terms of the national identification card and why we should look at that one separately. The same with the driving license. Anybody can get a driving license, so it doesn't help you when it comes to citizenship. My colleague makes a very good point in terms of perhaps some talk should have been made on citizenship because actually it's the basis upon which these whole things are being done. So to make a quite obviously statement, as I'm calling it, without going into the nitty-gritty of it, didn't help much, I don't think, because it is actually a fundamental issue that is there. The point that it is obiter may be the case, but you see, the Supreme Court has pronounced on something. Till we get another judgment from them saying that this is obiter, they should not be relied on. People are going to rely on it. Some people, I mean...
And we'll make argument out of it.
Pardon?
And we'll make argument out of it.
Exactly. People are going to court and use it as their legal argument. So you have to now wait for another opportunity for the Supreme Court to clear this. Till that time is cleared, why is the Foreign Ministry saying that maybe we have to look at whether even the birth certificate is... No. So now people have to now go and argue. It should have been... It was two categorical statements which should not have been made. One, it is a form of identification but not sufficient for the purposes for which it is being dealt with. And two, it is wrong to say that, make the statement at all about citizenship. Because whatever you said in open court about this not being about citizenship, the judgment is what we are relying on. And the judgment has made a clear citizenship statement, which is now being discussed as obiter or not obiter. Some people are going to rely on it to dissent. There's another aspect which is very interesting. You see, actually prima facie, the only document that gives us some idea of your age is your birth certificate. That is what is going to tell us how old you are. So if one of the requirements is that you should be 18 years, if you have no document at all and you want to prove somebody is 18 years, the first thing you do is his birth certificate. And prima facie on the face of it is a valid document. That's how people are able to use that to decide that I'm a footballer of this age or not. Because they've used that to get the passport. So I just think that there are so many legal arguments that have been raised and issues. Some things could have been more clear and dealt with differently. But in a nutshell, those are my points on it.
All right. Lawyer Paul, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. But just a quick clarification. I'm sure my friend Mr. Segwifia is aware that birth certificate has once been an instrument for registration as a voter. I'm sure he's aware, even though it was an illegality. It was on that basis that I said, if you want to stretch it, I got my birth certificate on the basis of my baptismal card. So then, is that not even a more primary source? But anyway, I still want to maintain that you are a citizen of Ghana not because you hold a birth certificate. You are a citizen of Ghana by birth. And when you look at the birth certificate, for example, the two parents may be, let me use Mr. Aban's example, Burkinabes. But it doesn't mean that prima facie, the holder of that birth certificate is not a Ghanaian. It doesn't mean that. Because if one of his grandparents is a citizen of Ghana, and even both of his parents are not citizens of Ghana, he is still a citizen of Ghana. And that is what the Constitution says. If one of your parents or one of your grandparents, and Article 6 makes it clear, is a citizen of Ghana, you are a citizen of Ghana. So the mere holding of birth certificates that says that both parents of mine are citizens of Burkina Faso is also not prima facie evidence that I am not a citizen of Ghana. That would fly in the face of Article 6, for example. So I just want to conclude that it will come to a time that the National Identification Authority Act that now makes it, as it were, the primary document for identification. Once it is rolled out completely, then this whole argument about birth cert and the rest of them may not, or may even cease, or may not cut eyes anymore. It will now be the national identification card or the Ghana card. But let me still maintain that none of these documents must be the basis of your Ghanaian citizenship. Your Ghanaian citizenship is by law. The Constitution says if one of your parents is a Ghanaian, if one of your grandparents is a Ghanaian, you are a Ghanaian, even if you were not born in Ghana. And that seals the matter for me, in my view. We should not, therefore, place too much emphasis on these documents to the extent that some of us whose parents don't even have birth certificate at all may be wondering whether they are now Ghanaian citizens or not. That is not the implication. And as for emphasis, this case has never been about determination of citizenship. And therefore, whatever was said over there is only in reference. Whatever was said is only in reference to what had already been said. And it is never a form, the birth certificate is, in my view, not a form of identification. Holding that alone is not enough. And if the information on it is on another card, as an example was given, you can't take your birth certificate to the bank and say that this is your upon. Of course, it will be rejected. So let us just understand that the Supreme Court needn't go into acknowledging judicially matters that are occurring in relation to the fact that people can easily, illegally obtain documents, because they were not dealing with citizenship and matters like that. And I think that I'll rest my case on this.
All right, thank you very much. Let me take a couple of messages. Well, quite a lot of messages, I must say. Prince Henry from Kofodia says, was it not the same birth certificate that gave birth to passport and Ghana card? So if I can't use birth certificate and it has given birth to passport and Ghana card, then there is no way we can use those two for the new voters register. There is something you have to take into consideration. When Mrs. Naelia Metepe, the trafficker, was arrested, she claimed she was not a Ghanaian, and yet she was born in Ghana. This is Barbara from, well, she held an Austrian passport at the time. Kweku from La Paz, then the Supreme Court got it wrong. I used only my birth certificate to get my NIA card. Why would the EC then accept my Ghana card? Secondly, what is the guarantee that my guarantors are genuine people? And that is also a question that has come up. How do you verify that the two guarantors are also Ghanaian? Ghanaians give birth in UK and Britain and get passports for their children. Kweku from La Paz has sent this one. Bright from Nsawam, Senior Bright says, I'm not getting this issue about the birth certificate too. Or is it because there's no certificate on the birth, on the document, that is why it's not being considered? Ghana we did. What goes round will certainly come round, he says. More messages coming in on this particular matter. Good morning. The birth certificate doesn't provide evidence. The only evidence is the place of birth, town, hospital, parents, and all those things. It's the only primary source document for the birth certificate. It's only the... Okay, Eric from Tema. Please, next time, make your message a bit more clear. Godfred, yes, I agree birth certificate is not an identity document, and rightly it is not. But it is used to establish your name, your age, parents' name, and etc. And by extension, your nationality, which is what you need to acquire cards like the voter's ID and the Ghana card. Let's Lawyer Pong know, this is Japheth from Klagon. Let's Lawyer Pong know that the two people who can verify you are Ghanaian first need some sort of documentation to be registered. You cannot have two people with either a passport or Ghana card vouch for you. So that argument does not hold. If Lawyer Pong agrees that at least one of your parents is a Ghanaian, then you are a Ghanaian. Then why does he support the prevention of Ghanaians living on the... Well, I don't think yet. Otu from Abeka, Lawyer Pong has not said that on this program. On the... Daryl Alantego says, on the matter of the birth certificate and the Ghana card, may I ask this question, please? Supposing my cousin guaranteed for me to acquire a Ghana card because I don't have a birth certificate to apply for a Ghana card, can I use this Ghana card with or without a guarantor to apply for a Ghanaian passport? Fact, it does not matter who my guarantors are. I do need my birth certificate to apply for a Ghanaian passport, is what he says. And so keep the messages coming. 0549 986 996, 0549 986 and 0550-585832. Let me move on to the second topic on the table.
Can I just chip in one word?
Quickly.
Just a second.
Please go.
I think that we need to also clarify that this decision is not the decision of one particular Supreme Court judge.
Yes, let me do that. Of the entire court.
This is a decision of the just before I finish, just quickly. It's a decision of the entire Supreme Court.
Yes.
And it's a unanimous decision.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that the judges at the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, or wherever they sit as more than one, they go for conference, they agree. If any of them disagree, they would have given a written dissenting opinion.
Yeah.
So I think it's not also fair that we only concentrate on
Professor
the person
Kuti.
whose hand or who is named as the one who has written it.
Certainly.
It is a unanimous decision. So it has nothing to do with the disposition or the principles or the philosophy of any one of them. It is
which makes it very wise, really. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I totally agree. In fact, it makes it rather wise to know that not a single member of that august body thought that comment was with all due respect, quite an offensive one. It makes it really wise.
Okay, so
why is that offensive?
Gentlemen, that's fine. So just to clarify, Franklin, thank you. Just to clarify on the statement your opponent was making. So Professor Ene Kuti signed this, but Enini Yeboah is here as well. He's the Chief Justice, JSC, JSC V. J.M. Doche, JSC P. Bafo Boni, JSC N.S. Badigbe, JSC S.K. Mafusao, and JSC N.A. Amegache. So this is the ruling of 7 persons, not just one person. Okay, so I'll start my next conversation from Franklin. Interpol, we all know this week, we heard of a red alert for the arrest of Samuel Adam Foster, also known as Adam Mahama, for his role in the Airbus bribery scandal. For those of you who don't remember, in January, there was this issue of the Airbus bribery case. They were fined quite significantly in 5 countries or so. Some persons have been prosecuted for their involvement in this matter. Ghana was one of the countries listed, and certain individuals were named, including Samuel Adam Foster. The government had indicated that it was undergoing a process where it was going to find out who persons that had been named as government intermediary 1 through to 5, who they were and what their roles were in this particular matter. Well, this week, in fact, 3 days ago, this Interpol warrant was issued with mixed reaction, of course, but from the very political side of things, with the NDC saying this is an attempt to embarrass former President Mahama and his campaign, and the special prosecutor also saying that, look, he has a job to do and he is carrying out his mandate. So, Franklin, this is where we are on this particular matter. Let's go through this one quickly so that we can move on to the other issue of COVID.
Well, you see, when this matter broke, I did say that former President Mahama must answer to the allegations, and rightly so. I mean, I made those comments on the basis of the fact that, obviously, even if this was not an election year, it was very necessary that the president responds, especially because of his proximity, the relationship with those who have been accused. But having said that, though, I've got to say that, look, I am a bit worried that it is only when actors, I think my headset is the problem. Let me take it off. It is not, I'm getting feedback. I don't know why.
It's okay.
Anyway, so it is only when I worry greatly that a lot of the things civic actors within this country and indeed ordinary individuals speak when they see some of these untoward behavior occurring. You find out that the status quo would marshal every fiber in their bones to not only resist any conversations about it, but actually calumnize persons who are actually asking this type of questions. I must admit, the Airbus issue, when it broke, I recall those times, conversations were had about somehow the opacity around the procurement processes and what have you. And many people were told, including I suspect those of us who were on the other side, were told that, well, listen, this was done legitimately and they had parliamentary approval. And I was saying yesterday on another network that, you see, the one of the challenges we have with our parliament is the fact that because of the majoritarian system that we operate, it's become a tool, a tyrannical tool, where decisions of the executive or intentions of the executives are passed on with the frightening speed at the frightening speed of light. You know, sometimes we have multi-million-dollar projects that go to parliament and they'll say this is national security, so let's not talk about it. But crying out loud, it's government money that is going to be used in doing it. Even if it's not government money, taxes, loans will be procured, as in this case, and then eventually the citizens will pay. So that component of our conversation about the fidelity to public financial management is very critical. I'm sorry to say that while I am waxing lyrical on this particular matter, I would have been happier if the current status or the status quo were any better. I'm not trying to equalize, but you have a number of countless amount of times when we have raised arguments about the propriety of a particular transaction. Take Kearney, for instance. It never went through Parliament. In fact, it was a good Samaritan who saw the contract and then sent it to us. $178 million. No, eventually, when it came to Parliament, there was a discussion about it. What is staring us in the face is that in the unlikely event that the event that the current government loses power, mark it on the wall. Assigns of the NDC would definitely go to all lengths, including international ones, just to make sure that transactions of this nature that were problematic have been called into question. While I say this also, I must admit that I see the special prosecutor's role as the special prosecutor has begun. I'm sure he's on this case, and I'm happy to know that he's on this case. At least, finally, he's doing some serious work. Even though I must admit that it is a bit one-sided as well. This is obviously, I'm not saying corruption should not be fought vehemently, but all the attempts at making the other, of course, the opposition look as if they were the only characters of evil in the country must also be balanced with some aggressiveness with the numerous allegations that have been made against assigns of this government. And so for me, look, this Airbus matter, as I said, is an opportunity to unearth how international transactions, how we internationalize our, if you like, our offensive public financial management conduct, and the candidacy of the NDT must speak to it. What I also find a bit strange is that I have read a statement purportedly signed by Honorable Sebefia, suggesting that the Interpol statement is obviously fake. You know, I had a conversation on
Franklin, hold on. He's here. He says he has not said that.
I never said it was fake.
All right. No. Okay, maybe these are my words. I've seen that well, to the extent that they may not be true.
No,
I'm trying to make a point that I've seen statements of that nature from the camp of the NDC.
yes, I have.
What I know about Interpol issues really is that if Interpol declares you wanted, then you're actually running away from the law. I mean, that's my basic understanding. There have been countless high-profile cases around the world where Interpol has issued the red alert. If the moniker that came with the statement from it was published by some media houses that Interpol issues a red alert. It speaks of a character who is running away from the law. I'm not sure that the characters involved in this matter have been running away from the law, really. Even under COVID, I'm not sure if anybody is running from the law. So there's the political aspect of this case, which I'm sure the current government would like to milk, and they are right to do so, But I'm saying that, well, just as we always want, I'm only saying that this whole habit of having international transactions in highly, secretive manner, and then almost sometimes under the pretext of national security, is something we need to reflect upon very, very much. And so this is a true test for our case. I must also say that sometimes some of our international partners may be getting, because sometimes are probably overzealous. There's a construct that sometimes international actors also try to do us in as a country, and so they decimate our integrity and, as it were, make it difficult for us to shine. I do not want to lend credence to that particular narrative. It's conspiratorial at best. Because I live in this country, I've run this think tank for nearly 18 years, and I've seen about 4 governments, and the behavior has been the same. I do not think that this is the way we need to conduct our national affairs. As I say, as we speak, there are all kinds of things going on as well. I'm hearing the airport issues. I don't know to the extent to which it is true, but it has an international character, and we do not have to wait until power changes hands before we start, speaking about these issues. Otherwise, it's something certainly the NDC must answer, devoid, obviously, in spite of rather of the politics of it as well. Because corruption obviously is going to be an issue in this election. What I'm not too sure about is whether the people asking for the debate about corruption are themselves any saintly. I think corruption has been worse under this administration rather.
Thank you very much, Franklin Kujo. We'll take a break. When we return, Mr. Sagbefia is here, so he can speak for himself. And we'll hear from Honorable Alexander Aban on this particular Airbus matter that has come to the fore again. Some people say the timing is strange.
Comprehensive news. The City Newsroom at 8 p.m. on City TV is your most engaging news bulletin on TV.
It's a very that's too bad. The youth are still throwing stones. They are still throwing stones here into our direction. And can I come in? I want to come in. Okay.
Telling your stories better with correspondents covering every corner of the country.
Getting access to potable water is a daily struggle for residents of Kakichekopi and Balekopi communities in the Ada East district of the Greater Accra region.
City Newsroom at 8 p.m. Very fluent with issues that concern you.
This inquiry me come from Mr. Rabbi. Someone wanted to be a bread. Told you kind of a 1 week. What do you say?
Is it unfair? What all this? What all this? We are dying! We are dying! We are dying for chocolate!
With City Newsroom, your community is now connected.
In this our community, all of us we are very sorry about this school. If we went to see the children, they are so small. Even my grandchildren are there. My grandsons are there. If they come out from the school, I have this.
Every day at 8 p.m., City Newsroom is live on City TV.
To change your Sunday night for the better.
This Sunday on the Upside Down Show. Have you ever met a mind reader? Well, on the show, we have Ahokeja, who will read minds live on the show. And then we have a conversation with veteran actor and the man behind the iconic Inspector Bediako role, Oscar Provençal. And later, the face behind the animation Papo, Kay Curtis, joins us on the Upside Down Show. This Sunday at 7 p.m. only on City TV.
You're welcome back to the big issue, looking at the Airbus issue. And Franklin did mention Mr. Segbefe because he has spoken on this matter since the red alert was issued. So, Mr. Segbefe, what is your problem with this red alert? Interpol carrying out its functions, looking for someone. What is the NDC's matter?
I put out my statement for clarity on what a red alert is and the implications of what it is going to do. My first request is for anyone who has the ability to just Google red alert, read on it, Google extradition, read on it, and then Google finding mutual legal assistance and read on it. And then perhaps what I've written makes a little bit more sense to those people. Basically, a red alert is not an arrest warrant.
Okay.
A red alert is Interpol, it's done by a country which informs Interpol of the need to partially hold someone because of issues with regard to criminal offenses or, for that matter, extradition. And it is done for people who cannot be found, who are at large. That's what Interpol is about. People have absconded, have run away from a particular issue. The person that you are talking about who is of interest is a British citizen. The investigation that we are all relying on to decide whether something went wrong or not was allegedly carried out by a British company or partial owners who are British, went to the British courts and was dealt with in the British courts. The British courts, on looking at the evidence, were able to name other people and their wives and what in other jurisdictions who had done stuff, but did not mention certain people who by name, yet certain inferences were drawn. It is in their power, because he's a British citizen and the thing was investigated in Britain, for them to arrest and charge him. As it stands at the moment, they have chosen not to. I cannot go into the merits or demerits because the point is that somebody is innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
And so as far as we are concerned, this man is an innocent man who has done nothing as it stands at the moment. Yet for political reasons, it is expedient to deal with certain issues. We have a mutual, based on treaties, we have a mutual legal assistance protocol with Britain. You can even ask the request, they will even call the person and interview him and make statements on your behalf. It can even go to the extent where you go there, make statements and interview. So that process exists. It becomes difficult if when you are looking for the person, you can't find him. The British government knows where he is.
They have confirmed that?
Well, for all intents and purposes, they had issues with him, or they have dealt with him insofar as the main case was dealt with. So I have no reason to believe that when they were looking for him, they couldn't find him. No. All the parties involved in that issue were looked at and dealt with. And whether or not they are going to proceed with other people or not is in their domain. So why don't you come out clearly, go through either mutual legal assistance, or if you feel that the offense is committed here, there's certain offenses that have been committed here, go through an extradition process. But to go for a red alert, which does not oblige the country can decide, look, the issue you are talking about is in hand, we won't do anything about it. They are not obliged to act. It's not a warrant of arrest that the person has done something or he can't. No, it's a request which can be ignored. And what the government should be telling us is what led to a red alert. Because we were informed, and if I want the thing book, as a lawyer, I said, look, it is well within the government's right to make inquiries and to chase and see what they want to do about it. But it appears that the red alert has been put out there at this time almost as a red herring. Because, really? Yes, because if you really, the red alert, if the British government wanted to assist you, why don't you tell us that you've applied for? Because that's what we were told. You have made a request to the British government for information. What has come of that information? what has come of that information? And there was definitely a response. The red alert can be done unilaterally by a country. It is not, they don't need to seek permission. So I can make a request as a country to Interpol that I need you to look for this person. And they can decide, well, we've told you before that this is not the situation. We have nothing to do. Why leak it? Because my view is that if somebody has done something or there's something available, give us concrete information that is tangible and which has an effect. This is political season. The worst part of this is that if even, and what's it called? Franklin raised a very important point. You see, with extradition alerts, mutual legal assistance, the moment it starts taking a political color, governments withdraw from it. Religion and politics, they don't get involved. And this is now beginning to take a political color. Because if you make a red alert and then it's leaked, then it means that you are actually giving the impression that this is no longer so much about crime anymore. It's about what points you can score. Do the red alert and keep quiet. Why should it be out there that a red alert has been done? And by virtue of that, it can even affect any inquiry that you want to do. That's why we say that, for me, who has worked in that environment, this is not the way forward. You want to do a mutual legal assistance, you want to do extradition, before you get to the point of issuing a red alert or whatever, these things are dealt with differently. And by issuing it at this point, I just think it's a red herring, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So that's my personal view, and others may have a different view.
Certainly.
But as far as I'm concerned, this is a red herring. It's not going to go anywhere. If the courts in, you can say what you like about America, Britain, but the UK's legal system is paka. It's one of the best we have in the world. That is why even in international agreements, you tend to find that when they have to settle disputes, you always see at this thing that the laws of England and Wales is what to be used to settle this. Yes, there's a reason. There are set processes and procedures. I'm telling you, having worked with these things before, that the red alerts as it is, in my humble opinion, has no weight. It's something that an individual government can do. As to how the foreign government is going to react to it is very dependent on what other steps have been taken. And if the government really wants to be open about this, they should come and tell us what have been done with regard to either extradition of a person who is a British national. The offense, even if it exists, which we don't know that it is, would have been committed on their soil, in their jurisdiction, because there's a British company involved. Why would they extradite or send a British national to Ghana? It won't happen.
So you are doubting the
strictly on law. Forget about the offense, which the potential offensive on law. You have a British company that has been fined and paid huge sums of money for allegedly attempting to bribe and bribing. No, alleging to bribe and bribing. And the ones they bribed have been stated. It was never stated. They said in the case of Ghana, it was alleged. It wasn't that they bribed. But in other countries, it was they bribed. Yes. Go and read the judgments. It was the person involved is alleged. That is an allegation. There is no evidence that any bribery took place. That's the whole point of that judgment. There is no bribery. And so, if there was, why does Ghana government need any further information? Why did they want to ask for any further information? Or they'll say that, look, on the face of this document, there's evidence of bribery. We want to bring this person in, blah, blah, blah. We will even know who's been bribed, blah, blah. There's no such evidence. You are trying to get information. There's a process for getting that information. On the face of it, it doesn't appear to have applied. And if it wasn't the fact that a red alert could be done unilaterally, I may have been, but it can be done. The government of Ghana can put out a red alert. So long as it follows certain processes for Interpol, they'll put it out there. But the country that they are putting out there for where the person is supposed to be have no obligation to act on it. And so it looks good, but time will tell. I am convinced. I may be wrong, but I am convinced that this red alert is not good because the person in question, they know where he is. They know that he's in the UK.
You are certain of this?
Let time tell.
No, I'm asking. You are certain of this?
There is no issue about the people in question, or at least the person in question, being at large. No. He's not at large. He's in the UK. And they actually know the exact address where he is. Even the Ghana government knows. Forget the British. The British know. And you see, it's like, excuse me, I steal your watch. And then Britain says that, oh, come, send Alex down to be charged and arrested. We want to deal with it. And the Ghana government says, why? If actually I stole your watch, we will deal with it in Ghana. They are both Ghanaians. We can deal with it. What offense has been committed? Nobody even knows this offense. So the Ghana government has to get information to deal with the offense. For you to do that, you go through mutual legal assistance. They have interviewed people. They will take this thing. What questions do you want? We write, ask the person this question, ask the person that question, ask this question. It's sent to them. They will call the person in. They will ask him the questions, or they will say, come, we'll allow you to interview the person because he's our citizen. None of that is being cleared. And the red alert doesn't give you that power. So I'm clear that, look, it's a red, this is international law. I'm not convinced that this red alert is going anywhere.
Let me also just ask you this. I've heard Mr. Nyendam, in Parliament speak and say, maybe it's time former President Mahama spoke about some of these issues and addressed it, because whether he likes it or not.
I think a statement came out. He said he's not involved in anything. That was it.
That is as far as he will go with this matter?
Why? You say I've done something. I say I haven't done it. Now I have to clear myself. Clear myself on what? I mean, what are you expecting?
So he's not bothered by these...
No, you see...
And these linkages?
Look. You know, sometimes... You look, in this country, I was a car thief, selling cars. I had garages, more than 10. The only way I cleared myself was when I went into Parliament and I was being vetted. Then I asked, okay, I'm this person who has done all these things. Give me the name of one car and a person that I dealt with wrongly. Nobody had a name or a car. So talk is cheap. But when you put it in its right context and you have the right forum, then you deal with evidence and law. What is he going to come and talk about? In the judgment, was his name called? In the issue of bribery, did they say that anybody in Ghana was bribed? The fact that I have an intention to employ you as my bodyguard because I want to attack Honorable and I want you to do it. But I say that you are my bodyguard to protect me. When we get to the place and I say, oh, attack him, and you say, oh no, I'm not to attack, he hasn't done anything, I won't attack him. Am I conspiracy? Am I part of my idea to deal with that person? No. You must go beyond a certain level. You must show that somebody was hired or employed to bribe and that a bribery took place. None of this is in the judgment. What is it President Mahama come to talk about? He has issued a statement. I'm not involved in this matter. It has got nothing to do with me. What exactly do you want him to talk about?
Okay.
I'm just, you see, let us be, is he supposed to come and say, oh, this is what happened? Why?
Would it be so bad because we've all read the judgment. The judgment makes quite, it doesn't name persons.
And what does it say? That somebody was bribed?
But inferences can be drawn, and it looks like those inferences seem to point at him.
The inferences were with regard to identity. No, look, inferences were regard to identity. What was their evidence that somebody was bribed? This is the question I'm asking you.
No, but even if there wasn't an actual bribe, at that level, there are implications of morality to a certain extent.
But you're not talking about when you are issuing red alert extradition and all these things I'm talking about. What is morality in this matter?
No, I'm just saying.
No, don't just say. You see, you put people on the spot just by virtue of morality. This is a legal issue. It's a real issue. Somebody is innocent until he's proven guilty. So every rumor, this is why we live in this situation. Everything that comes out, there's a judgment. In some countries, people were specifically named to have done certain things, even to the extent that their wives had bought houses, etc., etc. They were named. In that same type of judgment, there were inferences of what the company intended to do. Intended. It didn't say that they did. And you are now saying that because they did it somewhere, it must have been done here. If they had the evidence that it had been done, it would have been in the judgment. That's the only point we are making. If they had the evidence it had been done, it would have been in the judgment. And if the Ghana government quite rightly has concerns about what happened, they have every right to go and seek that information. So when I heard President Nana Addo, I said, look, let's send this to the special prosecutor for him to carry out investigation. Fine. We haven't heard anything again. For how long? All of a sudden, a red alert is issued for people who are not even Ghanaian. Put that aside. On what basis? So all these letters you wrote or whatever you did, what was the response? And the reason why I'm concerned is that when even we started saying we're going to seek further information, I thought that the information would demonstrate at least that something had happened that would fly and be able to be prosecutable in our courts. But I always had at the back of the mind that this guy is British. The offense is with a British company. And any action or act that may have been perceived is in the British courts. The courts have spent an extensive time doing a serious investigation, and the people have not been arrested or charged. What other evidence are you going to get? And in my humble opinion, we are not going to do a better job than has already been done. We are not. If there was evidence, they would have charged them.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Segbefia, on the matter. Lawyer Ban.
Yes, sir.
You are in Parliament, and there are those who have said that, well, at least at that time you were not in Parliament, but there are those who have said that Parliament as an institution supervised this and should be more than interested in the politicking of it. So what did you make of this red alert as put out this week?
I'm surprised that the timing of the red alert has become the issue. Let us draw the lines. Whether, the red alert itself, whether it was the proper procedure. And two, the issue of timing. It's just unfortunate that when it gets to crime, we politicize it so much that the crime itself gets buried in the political give and take between the political parties standing on opposite sides of the matter. And so crime, whether committed by us or committed by NDC or committed by anybody, especially when the people involved are high profiled and are very linked to political parties, gets to be relegated to the background, and then we deal with the politicking of it. Crime is crime. And it doesn't matter what time it is being investigated. For me, every crime must be investigated. If we really want to get to the position of Singapore and Malaysia and all that, I've had the opportunity of reading this man's book, Lee Kuan Yew, and how they resolutely dealt with issues of crime, even among the people who were in his own government. Right? That's what, stamped out crime in Singapore. And then they looked at themselves as a country and not a collection of NDCs and MPPs, right? And to that extent, they were able to build their country. We should have that at the back of our mind. That's probably the morale, the morale of my lesson. But the issue of the timing, which is being adumbrated so much by NDC and being flogged, it surprises me, because all the lawyers there know that crime has no time, it's not time bound. And if the special prosecutor, in trying to unravel whatever mysteries that surround the purchase of those Airbuses, decides that at this time he must make a request on Interpol for the arrest and extradition, or whichever way, of those involved, allegedly involved in the matter. What is the big deal about it? I think it would be in the interest, even for those whose names are all out there, that investigation is carried out properly. Then, if they are found culpable, so be it. If not, they go shoulder high, heads up, because proper investigations have been carried out and they have been found not to be culpable or not to be guilty of any criminal offense. So why has this become the domain for political debate? That's what beats my mind. And here, let me repeat what Franklin said. To my mind, it would be better that we deal with crime anytime, any day, when it occurs. Right? So that if it is us, if I should put it that way, who have committed a crime, deal with us. If it is they who have committed a crime, deal with it. Because it appears to me that we only unravel criminal issues when one party leaves office, one comes, okay, and then the cycle continues. For as long as we don't break that cycle, we will never grow. And when we are in government, we think that we cannot be attached. When we are out of government, then we are being chased and all that. When did that become, the hallmark of a good democracy? I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too much aloud, but the thing is that that's what it's supposed to be. And so if the politicians leave crime to be treated as crime, we will grow. So let the politicians stay out. And this issue of, the timing is for political gains and all those kind of things, they should stop it. Of course. Should anybody determine for the special prosecutor when he should issue a red alert? Now, my friend is saying that instead of a red alert, which in his view is a ruse, he should have just dealt with mutual legal assistance with the United Kingdom. Because after all, we have that kind of pact with the United Kingdom. And we know where the people are living. I don't know if the special prosecutor knows where those people are living. If he can offer that assistance and get the person for us, well and good. Since he knows where they are, then we don't need to issue the red alert. But the point is that if crime has been committed, it should be dealt with.
All right.
We all read portions, if not the whole judgment, portions of the judgment. And sometimes the argument is made. Tell us, who received what? Was any bribe paid? And all that. Look, if I'm ready, and indeed I do pay a bribe to you for you to come and buy something from me, you think I'm going to sell it to you at the market price? Obviously, the bribe component becomes part of the pricing. So who loses that? The people whose money you have used in taking the bribe. So I think that we must have thorough investigation into the Airbus matter. And this issue of, it appears here I'm very into the merit a little, but it's necessary because it has become part of the discussions. This issue of, they did not mention anybody specifically. If they say government official one, it could be this, it could be that, it could be that. Please, they should spare us that kind of argument which doesn't seem to make any sense at all.
Why?
Look, all the permutations...
It's a legal conversation. Why should we make inferences?
Thank you. All the permutations were made. Elected government official one. Elected government official one. When you're going to buy aircraft, obviously you're not going to take the foreign minister to go and buy the aircraft. You're going to take the defense minister, because this is aircraft for police. It's not civil aviation. Aircraft for the military, right? Those people, none of them was a elected government official. Smith, he was not. So all the inferences have been made. You know, in some of these matters, diplomacy from the UK decided not to name people. But you think that they don't know? You make the proper inferences, it will point irresistibly to certain personalities.
But let me ask something. Are you an elected government official?
I am an elected government official.
Okay.
Can I just make a point that he's just raised?
Please go.
You know, I just listened to him and concurred with him. He was actually prepared to sue. He is prepared to sue on the identity of a lady that was wrongly put out in the public for something that she was not involved with. Why don't you give that same benefit of the doubt to others?
And that's what I'm saying, that
because you
let us go through the investigations. Let's get through the investigations.
Perhaps they may be innocent, because as he says, if you have an intent to do something, if it is not carried out, you can still be done for the intent.
Of course.
Yes.
So
and that is why they dealt with the Airbus people. But perhaps the people they were intending to do whatever with, it never materialized. So let's start from a position of innocence. Let's not start from a position of the person is guilty. That's the only point.
Isn't that all the more reason why we should have the investigations?
Yes, but I'm not arguing with you.
That's what will unravel everything.
I agree.
Well, he has not said he doesn't want an investigation.
Nobody says there shouldn't be an investigation. There should be. But give people the benefit of the doubt. That is all.
Will you give them the benefit of the doubt?
Go ahead.
Give them the benefit of the doubt. Lawyer Paul. Lawyer Paul. Mr. Secretary says give the benefit of the doubt. What have you made of this particular situation that has come up this week? Interpol and his business.
Of course, that is a matter of law. I mean, it doesn't matter whether the person has even stolen your phone in your presence. He's still not guilty.
Thank you.
And that is a matter of law, and it is applicable to almost everywhere where civility is
and go to court.
So that is why it is important that, of course, the investigations are carried out.
Thank you.
I am not sure that it is conclusive that red alert may not permit a person to be arrested. I mean, when you go to the Interpol website, red alert notices or red notices are issued for fugitives wanted either for prosecution or to serve a sentence. A red notice is a request to law enforcement worldwide to locate and provisionally arrest a person pending extradition, surrender, or similar legal action. So it can lead to that. And from the notice that was issued, and what I can confirm is that the matter had actually been to court for the basis for the notice, and that's why you see a warrant for arrest also in it. It is also, by principle, it is not every application for red notice that is approved. My understanding is that it has to be applied to the general office or so in Lyon. They will have to review the whole application. And as Mr. Segbefia said, if it relates to politics, it is out. They would not approve it. If it relates to religion, it will not be approved. racism and such.
Hold on. Mr. Sankefe wants to make a small clarification.
No, when I spoke about the approval, it's not approval. It's to do with how the
handling,
the host country deals with the red alert when it comes. If the host country believes that it is got a religious or political nature, they tend not to deal with it, not necessarily the granting of the item. And therefore,
no, that's what I am saying.
Okay,
that is what I am saying.
Yeah.
That
okay.
The general office in Lyon will not approve of application for red alert if they relate to a political matter or that you want your political opponent to be arrested or dealt with in such a manner. They will not grant it. Okay. It is not an application that is prima facie approved. It has to go through a rigorous process for review and approval, as I understand it. And as I said, religion and racism and these. So before, and my understanding is that this one has gone through the process and it has been approved by the authorities, the legal department and all those concerned whose approval is needed before it can be issued. Now, again, people are questioning why it is not even on websites. To be honest with you, I have always had an issue with charge sheets from the police or any of these authorities being leaked out. And it can only come from them anyway, because individuals, until the latest Supreme Court decision, which at the court you'll be served with charge sheets, until such matter goes there to the court and the accused person is officially given such documents, they are in the custody of those who took the statement and who made the charge sheet. So it is quite worrisome. And the same thing I will say about this. And I know that some persons who did that in the past in the police have had to be sanctioned. And I think the police must be very serious, because if they wanted it to be published, it should have been on the website. But because of the nature of it, that is why they did not, it is not even found on any website, either of Ghana's police, Interpol, or anywhere in the world. It doesn't mean that what has been issued, it is not authentic, as some will say it is of dubious validity. It is not. But let us condemn it, that it is not proper, that these things should be leaked. It gives it some other extraneous connotations other than the fact that it is just purely for crime. So but then I also don't accept that, or maybe the blame to government. I mean, this is specifically from the Office of Special Prosecution, which is independent. Are we saying that the Office of Special Prosecution is being controlled by government? I don't speak for the government, but I'm making general statements. And Mr. Abantu made a point why maybe when some parties are in power, the members don't get to prosecute. I think it is also one of the fundamental reasons why the Office of Special Prosecution was established by law. And information there shows that there are quite a number of investigations that are going on at the Office of Special Prosecution against members of this government. At least I have one client who is a government appointee and who is being investigated. So the Office of Special Prosecution is supposed to, by and large, remove that spell, if you like, that was cast on us, that when a person is in power and associated with a particular political party, then of necessity, even if he has committed a crime, generally, there have been instances, I mean, during the NDC time, some of his appointees were prosecuted and they are still in jail. And there have been others too that have happened during the government, one government or the other. But it's just that the numbers and the regularity is quite questionable. And the Office of Prosecution, Special Prosecution, should be able to deal with that. So for me, and I said it on your station before, when the matter came up, it is not only those who have been named, and again, at least not all of them are Ghanaians per se. At least one of them also has a Ghanaian passport. And I believe that then that person is both a Ghanaian and a citizen of the other country of which he holds his passport. So that person, for example, can seriously be invited. It will, of course, be at the behest of the country where he is to either also then go ahead with some extradition or not. And we do so. After all, it wasn't one UK citizen in Ghana quite last year or so who was extradited to the UK for some judicial proceedings in relation to him. So these things are done, except that in these matters, and I get worried when, as Mr. Aban said, crimes get colorized. You see, people every other day in the district court, in the circuit court, in the designated high courts and other courts, go through prosecutions. Just on Thursday, there were a number of criminal proceedings that were going on. Don't these people also matter? Don't they matter? Why are we not talking about timing? For example, those who have been charged with certain offenses in relation to their own banks which they manage and who have been prosecuted. Why are we not talking about timing? So if the person is a politician, then we care. What about the voter who is also facing criminal prosecution? Don't you care about him also? Why are you not questioning the timing of their prosecution as well? So if we want to deal with corruption and we want institutions that have been established with our tax to work, let us leave them to work. And let us not then color it as if these persons who have track record, have gone through parliamentary approval and have been appointed, have all of a sudden also been placed under, maybe I should say, the umbrella or the elephant of the government in power. I think we have to do better. So whoever knows something that will even inure to the benefit of the person's name, I still repeat that it is your duty as a citizen of Ghana to place this before the Office of Special Prosecution. If you know something that will also help the prosecution, you have a duty under the Constitution to combat waste of public resources, to also go to the Office of Special Prosecution to inform. For those who are named, perhaps your physical presence may not, maybe until recently, have been necessary. I mean, we are doing Zoom in the court now. We even cross-examine people we haven't seen before who are in other countries, and the evidence is authenticated. You may not really have to physically be present at the place of investigation, or you may not have. But now that these matters, this thing have been issued, in my view, it is still within your right to even go to any Interpol, wherever you may be, and tell them, I have seen this in the Ghanaian media, and I'm doubtful whether by now, with the internet and all the social media that we have, those persons may not have heard. If they haven't, if they have friends, they have acquaintances, I'm sure they should. It's their duty to inform them that these matters are in the public domain. You can go to any of the offices of Interpol, wherever you may be, and tell them what you understand about this matter, or let them seek further clarification. You can even call the Office of Special Prosecution, in my view, or just send an email. Is this in reference to me? What is the matter? And I think you will specifically be giving these matters. It is not as if the person has prima facie committed an offense. This is presumption of innocence. So let us avail ourselves when it's possible and be investigated. Provide all the evidence. Cases have been to court day in and day out. When people have been convicted and an appellate court has acquitted them. And some of them have even been given compensation with our own tax money. So it's not as if the mere allegation now becomes a presumption of guilt, which is totally uncalled for if there's anything that people are doing with this. It is wrong, because tomorrow it can be you. And it will not be fair to you, your reputation, your family and your acquaintances, that all of a sudden, just because you have been alleged to have committed an offense or engaged in a wrongful act by law, then you become guilty until you prove yourself innocent, as some other countries do. And we don't. I think in this country, one of the laws that we find so difficult to accept is that a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty, or he, in accordance with law, admits his guilt or confesses to it. Let us understand that. Otherwise, we cannot move on. When it comes to you, you see how painful it is that until investigations are done, a court has convicted you on the basis of proof beyond reasonable doubt, or until you, by your own conscience, without any undue influence, has confessed you are innocent. And when before then you are pronounced guilty, you will just guess yourself that you are even the Ghanaian. So let us all give people the benefit of the doubt. And those who are given the benefit of the doubt, allow yourself so that these benefits renew to you. Because if you also then restrict yourself, then people will be wondering, if you are not guilty, why are you not also providing information? And it is very important for both ways.
All right, thank you very much, Lawyer Paul. Mr. Singh, you have a quick input so that otherwise I will go
Yes, I think that it's important to note that nobody is against the investigation. I think the point Lawyer Paul makes, which is very important, is the fact that the information was leaked. In any event, if you're looking for information and you're going through behind-the-scenes issues, and you're even having extradition proceedings or all those things, these are not things that should come into the public domain. They should be kept, and even the point where it's not put on a website and all that, there are good reasons. But on the face of it, this appears to have been intentionally leaked by the government. And based on that, it then gives the flavor that there are other reasons why this is being done as opposed to the main reason. Crime has there's no...
Why do you even introduce the government in this matter in the first place?
Well,
Special Prosecutor's Office does something, and then immediately bring in the government.
Well,
and then that starts the political debate, right?
Let me put it this way.
Alex.
Let me put it this way. No, let me put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
It was the government that sent it to the special prosecutor. True or false?
True.
So the government has sent a questionnaire to the special prosecutor or made a complaint to the special prosecutor. To try and say that the government has no idea of what the special prosecutor is doing or how he's operating is correct, as my friend says it. But that is not the reality.
Oh,
he will brief.
Now you are conjecturing, and when I was trying to do the inferences about government official one, you said no.
No, but no, I didn't say.
Go ahead.
Anyway, let me put it this way. For me, if you are going to go through this process, any legal process you are going through is supposed to be independent. True or false? Whether it's even the Attorney General, who is part of government or not. So if it makes him feel better and says that it is the Special Prosecutor's Office that leaked it, so he should have it. The Special Prosecutor's Office leaked it. Why? To what avail? The only beneficiary of such a leak, in our humble opinion, is government. Let me put it that way rather.
Really? So
how soon did those
let me just ask him this.
become members of
so do you see this affecting your campaigning anyway? Because
no, but it has the potential too.
But how did
look? We are in a campaign.
Those who are subject of investigation, are they members of the NDC?
But you have just done a conjecture on this program, linking the person you say is involved in it.
Don't worry. Answer the question for me, though.
And I'm telling you that
let me
it will be naive. It will be naive of us to sit on this program and say that there's no. Why? You really think? Are we really supposed to believe that the whole essence of this issue has to do with the names that are being asked questions on? Or it's the potential link to somebody else?
No, because they are going to be investigated. And when they are investigated,
please.
Then
it can affect your campaign.
Yes, because okay, let's wait and see whether Eba Saga will not come on political platforms. Let's wait and see. Let's wait. No, you have asked the question. I'm not. Let's see whether Eba. He is saying that he shouldn't come up. I'm answering the question before it starts. It will become a point on platforms. People will use it. People in government will use EBAS at this election. Let's wait and see.
You see,
you're asking me the question now.
I have
in all innocence.
I have sat here.
So let's wait and see.
I have sat here and said before.
I agree with you. No,
that we should deal with crime as crime. And that day, I made sure that I cut here. Let me be very blunt on that.
Yes.
I remember saying that Airbus matter is very stinky.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And I even mentioned that, look, the excavator matter was equally stinky. And that for me, as a person, both must be investigated. You remember me saying that?
I remember you.
So why can't we talk about it?
I'm not saying that you
hasn't said that, Honorable Abad. Okay.
I never said that.
You see, Honorable said the point is clear. Don't worry. Don't worry. The point is clear.
My point is very clear. I said the investigation should go ahead. But the leaking of it, for me, is the issue. Especially when, in my humble opinion, the ways of dealing with these things with international processes and procedures. So, for example, if you leak certain, has there been an application for extradition? In any event, that is a process in itself. By the time you go through the application for extradition and whatnot, Kojo once said that, there is a problem if we have information of where the person is. And then you asked me a simple question.
Said so.
Do you know where the person is? And I've said that. When has the special prosecutor said he doesn't know where the person is? Is it the red alert that I'm supposed to rely on to say, when I don't know the basis, if it is even advised that go for a red alert and then we can give you information, I don't know. But whatever the process is, it should not have been leaked because it has a connotation with the period that we are in at the moment, which is an election period.
Okay.
And we are clear in our mind that is the position. And whether it is correct.
In an election period, the special prosecutor must not do
he should work.
investigations.
But no, I'm not. You see, don't mix two things. The leaking is what we have, the issue that I'm on about. As for the investigation, let it go on. You've even given an example. People are being arrested, taken to banks. When have I ever said they shouldn't investigate Airbus? Who says they shouldn't investigate it? We were even saying, okay, the pace at which it was done was fantastic. Within 48 hours of the thing coming out, the president had already instructed special prosecutor go ahead. But when you are doing the procedure, why leak it? At this time, 4 months to the election, go ahead with the procedure. Nobody's asking. There are many investigations going on.
But you see,
okay. All right. I need to read messages, Mr. Anablaba. I need to read messages. Thank you. I'm going on Twitter now, and Saladin, Sultan of Egypt, says, but Saladin, you need to change your name. Saladin was not Sultan of Egypt. Historically. Okay. Will banks accept birth certs as proof of identity and citizenship for NDC? The least said, the better. Now, this really is the big issue, and that is on a statement Honorable Segbefia made. Government, Daniel Mensah says, Godfred, based on this SC judgment, don't you think it is possible for a foreigner who has a birth certificate and further goes ahead to acquire the Ghana card to duly register and get the voter's ID? That's another question that is being asked. Kia Mofa says, what happens to those who cannot get guarantors for the voters' registration? Also coming through, Pakistan says, enjoying the insights with regards to citizenship on the big issue this morning. We all need these interpretations to be clear on issues like this. Thank you to the lawyers on the show today. Tim Levine says, if the birth certificate is a poisoned food, then surely Ghana card and others are void for being fruits of the poisoned tree. Franklin, I'm told you want to make a statement quickly.
Well, not necessarily. I was just saying that the leaking bit, obviously, it's within the realms of politics. You know, your political opponents will make capital out of it anyway. I'm sorry, Honorable Secretary. Unfortunately, this is the nature of our politics.
But does it allow you therefore to comment on it as well?
Well, you have commented on it.
Thank you.
I expect that so definitely this will be used against you. You have liberty to decide how you respond.
Yes.
Okay. More messages coming in. T'Challa tweeting on at AI says, what is identification? Is Clement saying the birth certificate doesn't help identify a person? Before photo IDs, how were people identified? Kwekuasa tweeting on at Kente Kente says a birth certificate is a record of birth that assists in complementing additional verifiable information required for establishing citizenship. It is only a Ghanaian citizen who can hold a Ghana passport or an NIA card. Slightly, okay, Anambile, this is your Twitter name, you have to change it. Godfred, I humbly suggest that a new Ghana card be compiled. Item name, then he goes on to list Ghana card, source doc is birth cert, passport, source doc, birth cert, voter ID, Ghana card, and passport. If this is a paradox, I don't know what is what he has put forth today. And let me just take a few more on WhatsApp, and then Obatampa Francis Essien, CEO Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing, says the lawyers are confusing the already confused citizens. Any person born in Ghana can acquire a birth certificate, which is proof of age, and it leans heavily on place of birth. Citizenship is clearly defined in Chapter 3 of the 1992 Constitution. So lawyers, stop the musical chairs and stay with the Constitution. Okay, that one has also come through quite clearly. And then a few more. Well, Saladin again says, will banks accept birth certificates as proof of identity and citizenship? Well, that's a question that has already been answered. And Kwekwesa says, you have touched on a very important topic in passing that needs addressing: identity theft. It is on the rise, and people shouldn't let their guard down when being vouched for or vouching for relatively unknown persons. Registrants should guard their card information. Emmanuel, aka Rack School, says a friend of mine who is Nigerian is married to a Ghanaian. Can he become Ghanaian because he's married to the Ghanaian? And Penna Gaiety says the birth certificate is a very essential document in every nation. If government puts measures in place to ensure that hospitals and clinics can work hand in hand with births and deaths registry to ensure proper and authentic certificates, all these issues would not be a problem. Francis Ivy comes with a very funny one. He says, my take on the birth certificates brouhaha is simple. Cassava is used to make fufu, but cassava is not fufu. Anna, no legalities or long things here. If we disagree with the ruling, let's go for review. Thomas Citizen says, I do understand when other lawyers explain or give their views on the judgment, but when NDC lawyers speak, I get confused. And then Jay Penny sends this one to Lawyer Pong. He says, let Lawyer Pong know that the two people... Okay, I think I have read this particular message already. So, we've run out of time on the program this morning. A big thank you to Mr. Alex Segbefia, and all the best on the campaign trail. I know you have a lot to do till the year ends, but we hope you continue finding time for us on the big issue as and when we call you.
Next week I'm coming to the studio because I think those of us who can stay, if I will come, we'll storm the place.
Yes. All right, Franklin and Lawyer Alpo, you are in studio next week. Honorable Alexander Aban, Deputy Minister of Communications, legal practitioner, thank you very much as well. Lawyer Clement Akapam, lecturer at GIMPA, thank you as well for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Big Issue. My name is Godfred Akwete-Boafo. Have a good weekend.